Volpo Studios.
Hello everyone, it's episode 11, the penultimate episode of series 1. Next week's episode will be a wrap-up show, and me, Dan and James delving into all the guests, all the brilliant guests we've had on this season, the first season of the podcast. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for all your feedback. It's very much appreciated. Now this week is Nick Hodges. Nick Hodges is the founder of the Bodie Hodges Foundation, a charity in Leicester set up in the memory of 10-month-old Bodie Hodges, who was Nick's son, who lost his life but became a hero by saving the lives of 4 other babies due to organ donation. The aims of the charity are to support families bereft of a child and to raise awareness of the organ donation register. It's a really powerful episode. And I've known Nick for quite some time now, and his lovely wife Donna, who started this foundation, having lost their child, Bodie. It's such a powerful episode, and we delve deep into, all sorts of things about life and Bodie and the foundation that they've set up to help other families. I hope you enjoy it. I've known you for a long time, and clearly we know each other through your charity.
Yeah.
Nick Hodges,
yes,
from the Bodie Hodges Foundation.
Yeah.
Over the years, I've been involved in some incredible events that you've put on.
Yeah.
And it's always astounded me that I think I've said this to you before, maybe over a couple of pints or whatever, but we play golf at the Belfry.
Yeah.
You've had John Barnes.
Yeah.
You do the Santa
Fun Run, yeah.
The Santa Fun Run. I mean, I've been on your website today, and the amount of things that you do on there it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. I know James has looked into it since he knew you was coming on, and so has Dan. And the first few times I met you, obviously great guy, wonderful events, and sort of when you're in a position like me and someone says, "Oh, will you come and do that?" Of course, you get asked quite a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm famous or anything like that, but you get asked quite a lot.
Yeah.
And then you read the backstory of why the charity started.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, it's so sad, and it's a devastating start.
Yeah.
To why something started, but the incredible organisation, charity that you and your wife Donna have created is unbelievable. I think a really good place to start, if you wouldn't mind, is to tell us the story of why Bodie Hodges started.
Yeah, no problem. Well, going back now to 2012, and Bodie was only 10 months old. He was a healthy baby, just like any other little boy. I had a daughter already who was 5 at the time, and everything was going exactly as you kind of expect. It was almost like the old 2.4 family. Do you know what I mean? Like a boy and a girl, everything you kind of dreamed of. And then, very sadly, he had a choking accident at home, and basically he got rushed into hospital. They did everything they could to try and save him, and he basically they got his heartbeat going again after about 45 minutes. But I say he was rushed into hospital. But even at that point, I knew if you've not really had that kind of supply of oxygen to your brain for 45 minutes, there's going to be very serious long-term consequences. So we're kind of in hospital for 2 or 3 days, and it kind of, those 2 or 3 days really has set the tone in many ways for everything that's kind of happened since, because you kind of knew. I remember asking one of the doctors and saying, what chance has he got of pulling through? And they wouldn't even give me like 1%. Do you know what I mean? All they said is, there's always hope. That's the best that they could give. But the thing is, you took that and you ran with it, and you went, do you know what, I'm just going to hold on to that. And we spent 2 or 3 days, everything was out of our control. It was just, every time the doctors came round and the consultants, it felt like it was more bad news. And we were just kind of knew what was most likely going to happen, but while he was still there, it was kind of one of those things of, you've just got to keep believing. And then eventually he had something called a brainstem test, which is the kind of final test that they do to see whether they think there's any chance that there could be kind of future life without the use of machines and what have you. And unfortunately, as we kind of expected, in effect, he didn't pass that test. And that's the point we got approached about organ donation. And a lot of people find this quite almost as though it's almost very matter of fact that we just went, we'll let him become an organ donor. People are like, how can you make that decision, sort of thing? But it was just a really, really obvious decision for me and my wife to make. In fact, I didn't even have to think about whether Donna would be thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this. I knew she'd think it, she knew I'd think it, and both of us said exactly the same time, yeah, of course, not a problem at all. And the reasons for that, kind of, there's your initial thinking behind it, and the initial reasons why you want to do it, and then over time you start to realise, again, the benefits of why you made that decision. Basically what had happened is he had very high levels of treatment drugs within him over those 2-3 days where they were kind of battling to try and save him. So when they did the initial test, they said the levels are too high. At the moment, as it stands, he won't be able to become an organ donor because it would be dangerous to transplant. What we've got to do is wait for the levels to kind of come down to an acceptable level. Then we can do the final test and then put kind of a 24-hour kind of procedure between getting those people lined up and ready in the hospitals where the transplants would take place. What we didn't know is that it would take, I think it was a further 8-9 days, and we got told that because of the state his body was in, because of the lack of activity within his brain, a lot of his organs would shut down. It'd be unlikely that he would actually kind of pull through. So we had to bear in mind that might be a situation, and we said, look, as long as he's comfortable, if he's uncomfortable in any way, then it stops. We have to stop it immediately because we don't want that for him. But he didn't, and as it was coming back, the test it was slowly kind of reducing, but he just remained absolutely rock solid. All his stats, everything just remained completely solid. He ended up transplanting his liver, which initially was in a real state as a result of obviously the lack of activity and what happened within the brain, and it kind of made a recovery. And then, as I say, he went on and he either saved or changed the lives of 4 children. And one of those who I know in particular, because we've not had direct contact with the family, but we've had information that's come through. With a girl who was literally days away, a little, I think she was 18 months old. She was like days away from probably not making it. And it completely has transformed her life. And at the time, it was that thing of something good can come out of something absolutely tragic. And we knew how his parents might be feeling because we'd just been through the worst time that anyone can ever go through. And thought, well, this is his chance to make a difference. He's only been with us for 10 months, but this is his chance to have a legacy. He'll make a difference to other children. And it's not just those children. I've said this before. It's their families. It's their extended families. It's their community. They might go on to have children. So
it continues and rolls out and rolls out.
Exactly. The cycle's massive.
I think though, Nick, that to make a decision like that in that moment, in your sort of grief at that point, that is a real, that takes some real strength. Did it feel like that in real time, or did you feel like you was getting signals, the fact that Bodie's liver was kind of, damaged a little bit, and then all of a sudden it came back? Did that reinforce it for you, or?
There are little things that happen along the way, but it was just such a natural part of it. Was for 3 days we've been, like I said earlier, we've been given bad news after bad news, and we used to have to take us in this office, you know what I mean, be like, right, we're getting some more bad news here, do you know what I mean? And it was the first time where we had a little bit of control over some decisions, and we would only ever make the decisions in the best interest of Bodie, but I was very much like, look, he can really make a difference here, he really can, and why on earth would you, because not everybody can be an organ donor, because it's quite often people who come off a life support machine. There are certain things that you can donate after death, but you need a beating heart, basically. And it was just like, how can you not want to do this? It's not, he's gone, his spirit had gone. It had gone a few days before, and that's a separate story, but that's something we knew. And it's a bit like, he can make a difference. He can literally be a hero here. Do you know what I mean? He really can be. And he'll make a bigger difference in that first 10 months and the decision that is made. And I really believed he was kind of leading us to that decision as well. So it was just an absolute kind of really simple decision. And saying the only thing which was kind of like the potentially was going to be difficult was that whether he did start to deteriorate in terms of over that time we were waiting, or whether he'd have gotten any discomfort. And if he'd have been in any discomfort, we'd have stopped it straight away. But also, it gave me another 8 or 9 days with him. When, honestly, that felt like 8 or 9 weeks, and the amount of value that I put on that. And it's funny, because I look back now and I've got memories of it. I can't remember it really clearly, because it's kind of a bit Groundhog Day when you're in there with all the treatments. But like the nurses and that in there were just amazing. Everyone always says it's about the NHS, and it's true. The nurses who looked after him were incredible, and they made us feel at ease. And they was a bigger part of the decision as well, because if we'd have felt uncomfortable in there,
of course,
I don't know whether we'd have wanted to stay. So yeah, a lot of people, and loads of people say this, Pipes, you know what I mean, in terms of, it must have been such a big decision. It wasn't. It just seemed just totally natural. It just seemed the right thing to say. And like, even to the point, I mean, this isn't funny, but it makes me smile in a way, because I remember them reading off a list of all of the things which we were happy for them to donate. And I just said to him, and Don had said as well, look, you can have anything. You can have absolutely anything. It's not going to hurt him. It's not going to hurt him in any way. So you can have absolutely anything. They said, look, we've got to read the list. And they're like reading it out like it's a shopping list. And me and Don were going, heart, kidneys, liver, literally just going off it. And it's a bit like, this is absolute.
And they still have to go through it.
Yeah, they still have to go for it. It's just part of the procedure that they have, and they almost apologise for it, but they have to obviously kind of like from a legal point of view, they've got to have it all down there. So I think the biggest thing that for me personally, and I know it's been a little bit different for Donna. I find it a lot more soothing, the organ donation side of things, than Donna. She's really glad that we did it, and she thinks it's absolutely the right thing. But I got a lot more out of it in terms of my grief, particularly early on, in terms of helping support me through it. But I remember the night we got home from the hospital, which will be stuck in my mind forever. You know, you're going home without your child, and you're leaving hospital, and you've got an envelope full of kind of helplines that you can ring. This is a big part of why we started the charity, which I'm sure we'll cover in a bit. Yeah. But I remember that night going up to bed, and I was just thinking, I'm not going to sleep. I'm just not going to be able to sleep. I don't think I'll ever be able to sleep again. And I don't know why. It's just one of them things just came into my mind as I'm walking upstairs. I'm thinking, this is one of the worst nights of my life. There were a lot in that short period of time. And I just had this thought as I was going up, which just put a tiny little smile on my face. I thought, but because of Bodie, this is the best night. There are a lot of people, family, friends of those children who've been transplanted today. This is the best night of their life, and that's because of Bodie. And that kind of is that thing which just kind of, I don't want to say like silver lining to it, because it seems insensitive that way, but it's just that one thing to think, just helped me. It really, really helped me. So the organ donation side of it, whilst it helped a lot of other people, it helped me a huge amount, particularly in my early grief, which is why I kind of campaigned quite hard with it for a number of years. Did you come out, after that night? Did you have when was the first time you started thinking, I want to start something in Bodie's name? Was that quite quickly after all? When I suppose, well, I'll tell you what happened. Basically, at the funeral, we had a huge amount of people who turned up there. And one of the guys who I work with just came up to me and just said, look, I hope you don't mind. He said, I've had a word with the guys at Obi Town. We're going to hire the pitch. He goes, you get a group of your mates together. I'll get a group of my mates together. And we'll have a little charity game. He goes, raise some money, whoever you want to raise it for. And I just clung onto it straight away. Honestly, I was like Velcro on it. How did that make you feel? Because this is what I wanted to ask you, Nick. Because some people might take offence to someone offering that so immediately. No.
Do you know? I think everyone deals with it in different ways.
He was brilliant the way he did it. He said, like, if you don't want to do it, look, don't worry. But I needed something.
Yeah.
Because I've said this a lot. I think the way I've dealt with a lot of things is I couldn't, as soon as we got to the hospital, I couldn't sit still. I couldn't sit still and just kind of absorb what was going on. I had to keep busy. I'm a little bit like that anyway. And so the idea of having to stop and stare in the face what was going on absolutely frightened the life out of me. But as soon as he gave me that, I was like, right, I'm all over this. And I was literally at the kind of like the reception, whatever you want to call it afterwards. I was pretty much going around like a Sunday league manager, you know what I mean, on a Saturday night. I'm walking around signing people up. You're playing, aren't you? And of course, no one's going to say no. And
I know this from some of the events we've done recently.
You know what I'm like.
I know that personality very well.
It's a good focus, isn't it?
It was brilliant. It was like that happened in obviously that was in the May, and the game was happening in the August. It was earlier than that. It might have been, I can't remember. It's a bit of a blur.
Yeah, of course.
But it was probably like 2 months after. And we ended up, like, I just asked a few people on social media, a few mates, look, anyone get some stuff for a raffle for us? And, you know, like, I got people coming with Del Piero signed Juve shirt. I had a Ryder Cup. Remember the one where they won virtually all the singles games? I forgot the name of the place over in America now. They won it on the last day. They were miles behind. Brookline, something like that. I can't remember. It was Ryder Cup. It was Ryder Cup.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, what sport do you mean?
Sorry, I
got it.
said that. One of my mates used to play on the tour, and he now works for the PGA, and he managed to get hold of a signed flag from the European team, like 1 of 250, and he's given me that, and I thought, I'm in front, I've got a Del Piero shirt here, I've got a Ryder Cup. I ain't going to be flogging them for 50p a ticket down at Obi Town, or you know, like a meat raffle or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and then we ended up, I think we did about 10 grand. We raised the money for Rainbows. And I kept some of the stuff back because I just thought, I ain't going to get the value for it. And then it was like, do you know what? I'm just going to do my own sports dinner and I'll get rid of it. And the idea was I'll do one. Yeah. And
was that called the Bodie Hodges Foundation at that point?
It wasn't at that point.
Got you.
Because what then happened is we, about probably within a couple of weeks after the funeral, we got some friends who got a place over in Spain. And they said, look, if you just want to get away, you can take it whenever it's free. And we said, look, we'd love that because we just need to get away. Because, again, I've explained this before, it's like an unwanted spotlight on you. Once it's happened, you have this bubble of people who you've got as your support and you feel safe around. Because everything, I remember, like, if I go down to the restaurant in the hospital, if I saw anybody in the slightest bit acting ungraciously, disrespectfully, I would get really, not angry like I wanted to go over and fight them, but I would just be, do you know what I mean? I just didn't feel safe around them because it's just like, you know, like my child is up there and my child is about to die and you are kicking up about not having enough sugar for your coffee or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have this kind of like safety net sort of thing of people you're around. And that kind of, you have to start to face things outside that bubble again. And it's things like the school run. Because I say my daughter was 5 at the time. And people don't know how to handle it. And some people are naturally, they're just very good at it without realising it. And some people who you know really well are shocking. They just ain't got a clue what they're doing. They don't know what to say. And you literally do get people who cross the road. You hear of it, they will, and I've seen it, they literally will cross the road to avoid you. And if you end up making eye contact, didn't see you there, sort of thing. Yeah. So we just wanted to get away from this kind of unwanted spotlight.
Just before you move on to that, because this is one of the questions I wanted to ask you, because I don't know if I'm any good at sort of talking to someone, whether, you know, it's something awful that's happened, terrible, something quite awkward or whatever it is. But what helped you at that time? What did you appreciate that people did? Because I do think people find it really difficult. And it's not that they're trying to be nasty or horrible or dismissive in any way. They just don't know what to do. What was...
Well, there's kind of two parts to that. As in, what I needed at the time was just to be able to talk. I mean, you know I like talking anyway, Pipes, you know what I mean? You know me well enough.
We both do.
Yeah, exactly. But I just needed people who would just sit there and listen and be honest with me about certain things, but I just needed someone to listen. And I had a mate who said, I'm going to ring you every day. He said, if you don't pick up, it's fine. He goes, I ain't going to take offence to it. He goes, I might text you. If you don't respond on a text, it's absolutely fine. But if you want to, just pick up the phone any time. The lads who I grew up with, the lads who I've known since I was 5 or 6, we all kind of live in different parts of the country now. They were just on hand all the time. I could pick the phone up and say, you don't fancy coming down this weekend, do you? I just need, you know what I mean, need some time with at the house or whatever. Right, yeah, we'll drop everything, we'll come down. So I just needed that initially. But it's interesting what you say, because someone we both know, Dave Orton and Gemma, very sadly with Freddie, about 18 months, 20 months ago now, very sadly Freddie died in a car accident. He was only 7 years old. We went round to see Gemma and Dave within a couple of weeks, and I was in exactly the same position. Even though I've been through it, I've never been so scared to go around and see it, because I thought, I don't know really what to say. I really don't know what to say, and I've been through this. And it made me appreciate how good my friends were, but also how difficult a position I would have put people in without really realising it. Yeah. So like even when I went back to school, that happened in the May, and I went back to school. I think I went in for like kind of a few hours at a time over the course of a couple of weeks. But I just sent an email to all the staff just saying, if you see me, then, you know, please do say hello, do speak. It's fine to talk about Bodie. But if I don't want to speak about it, I'll just say I don't want to speak about it. Don't take any offence. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And the staff there were absolutely amazing. But who was even better with the kids? The kids were absolutely, I shouldn't say kids, like the students there were just unbelievable. I mean, you know what Lancaster's like. It's a challenging environment. And some of our toughest students, they were just amazing with me. Like they were not disrespectful. They weren't rude about it, but they'd ask questions, you know, which adults are kind of too shy to ask.
Yeah, or scared of offending.
Yeah, exactly. They're just quite matter of fact about it. And I really appreciated that. And actually, I felt more comfortable around them than I did around a lot of adults. And yeah, I mean, even to this day, as I say, I've been gone there 6 or 7 years now, and a lot of the lads who I've taught, I still see about, and you know, again, they're just amazing. They're always, how's the foundation going? And you know, a lot of them got behind it in the early days as well. So yeah, it's incredible, really. But it's very difficult. I do appreciate how hard it is for people in those situations. And there's not a right or wrong answer, because everyone grieves differently.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to talk and talk and talk and talk about Bodie. Do you know what I mean?
Was Donna the same?
No, completely different.
What sort of?
Donna was Donna's grief was literally for a good couple of years. She just sat down and stared it in the face. She did the complete opposite to me. It's something I couldn't do. Because you don't have a choice in the way that you do it.
No,
of
course.
That's how you grieve.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Donna kind of just did what she needed to do for 2 years, and you know, making sure we looked after Lila, who's our oldest, and I think she struggled at times with the way that I would, because I was so out there about it and wanting to talk about Bodie and getting a charity going. I was like, right, any media opportunities. Radio, absolutely anything. And in the end, I had to she pulled the reins on me a few times, said, look, you know, this is too much, we need to go a little bit slower here. And I was like, okay, you know, I respect that. And I did kind of pull back a little bit on it. But it just goes to show how difficult it can be, but also how you have to have those conversations and you have to understand that you're grieving differently, because I think that's when things can blow up, because the other person just doesn't understand why the other person is being like that. Yeah,
but as you say, everyone grieves differently.
Completely.
And that's the difficulty in it, I think.
Person to person.
Yeah,
it's
completely.
All different.
And I think the thing is, like, as you know, I do a lot of running now. I'm not a good runner, by the way. I'm just...
You get round, mate. I get round. You never give up.
I get round,
I noticed that about you.
That's about it. I get round. But it's almost symbolic of my grieving, where I've just run. I literally started running, and it's almost like if I get far enough away and enough time goes on, if I stop and look back, it's not going to hurt as much. Do you know what I mean? Just like if you're running a long distance, if you keep going, you might hit the wall at 17, 18 miles, but you think, I've only got another 7 or 8 to go. I've got a long way. And I think that's kind of what my grief has been like. And it changes over time. Yeah, everybody grieves so differently, and it's really important that people understand that. It's not a matter of you follow a pattern and everyone grieves in the same way, you know, particularly when it's a child.
Of course, and communicate about it with others.
Yeah,
especially those that are close to you.
Yeah,
and that's what you and Donna did at that point.
Yeah,
but I interrupted when you was, because that's a really important, powerful point that you've just made. But I interrupted when you were at the point where your friends had given you the spot in Spain to go and have a little bit of time, because I know that's important as well, because later I think you used that in part of the charity.
That was really the formation of the charity. So we went to Spain, and as I say, it was never a holiday, it was time away. I think if we'd have been closer to the airport, we might have come home after 2 days, because it was just like, got over there, and it don't matter where you are, you can be in the sunshine surrounded by all the things you like on a holiday, but your heart is still shattered into pieces, and you're just taking your problems to a different place. But by the end of that week, we had started to kind of relax a little bit. I spent, like I say, Lila was only 5. I was going down the pool with her every day, going down the beach, and started to smile again a little bit. And then when we got back, I've got another mate who's got a place down in Cornwall. He still lives down there. He said, "Come down." He goes, "We've got some free time in one of the places." So we went down, and that felt a little bit more like a holiday. And that's when I said to Don, "Look, we've been lucky here in terms of being off of this. Not everybody gets that chance. You get a lot of children." Again, a good example is at my school. Sadly, we do have children who die young because of conditions. And you've got some families who they've got a full-time carer. They're not in a position to be able to go, "Do you know what, we're gonna go and spend 3 weeks in Miami or you know what I mean, 3 weeks in Dubai or whatever." So we're like, "Do you know what would be really nice is if we could raise money for a holiday home to give people somewhere to go in those early days of the grief, you know, within the first kind of year or couple of years." Because one thing that this is very maybe personal to me, and it might be slightly different for Donna, but I think all of us, you need something to be looking forward to.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't, you get Christmas over, you start thinking about summer holidays, don't you? Yeah. You need that little bit of something just to hold on to, and just to kind of, and we thought if we can just give, exactly, a bit of focus, and it ain't going to change anything. It's not going to bring their child back, but if we can give them a week in a luxury kind of lodge out on the water where it's really calm, really peaceful, then it's going to give them that opportunity to just go there, spend some quality time together, reflect, and maybe start to try and build something again. And that was kind of like really where it was kind of right, that's what we're going to do, that's the target, that's the focus. And I think we set ourselves a target of about 250 grand or 200 grand initially.
Are we a charity yet?
We became a charity in March 2013. So Bodie died in May 2012. And then we started the ball rolling around about late summer, maybe September, because it takes a while for the charity commission to get it going. But obviously we'd set up the event, set up the first sports dinner, and I think we got charity status just before that first sports dinner.
Where was this first sports dinner?
At Tigers. So we did that there for the first 8 were at Tigers, and that's when we had Paul Mercer.
Oh wow! He's always got massive celebrities from the start.
He was brilliant. He was so good.
Yeah.
He was unbelievable. And so we had Mercer. That was the first one, and then it just kind of grew from there. And I think within 2.5 years we hit the target.
Wow.
And that blew my mind. But we're always kind of, I've not got any background in charities whatsoever, and as I was explaining to you before, I'd never really stepped foot in Leicester until the early 2000s. So I've not got
a huge network.
Well, I haven't at all. When I first moved here, I knew about 5 people, and that was it. And it was that thing of like, right, well, I'm just going to do it my way. Do you know what I mean? Because to start with, I was the absolute driving force behind it, because Don was just trying to deal with life.
Course,
do you know what I mean? At the time, and it was my focus, and as I say, it became my next thing to stick on with, and I just became obsessive about it, absolutely obsessive about it, which was unhealthy in some ways, but gave a really good start to the charity. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
and always with, I mean, it's a silly question, but with Bodie at the forefront of your mind, sort of driving you forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I look at it now, and like things were we just finished our 10th year as a charity now. We're going into our 11th year. It's 12 years, or coming up 13 years since Bodie died. And I look at it, and again, it kind of follows my pattern of grief as well, in terms of, I look back at the early social media posts, and everything was about Bodie on there. Do you know what I mean? Literally everything. Loads of photos on there. You wouldn't see me without some Bodie merchandise on. I just wouldn't go anywhere without it on, because I wanted people to know about us. I wanted people to know about Bodie. I wanted to be able to tell his story, develop that legacy for him. Whereas now, it's not about Bodie. It's about what we do as a charity and what we offer as a service and how we've grown. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean.
He will always be,
of course,
the kind of like the driving force behind the charity and our reason. He's our why. But now it's about all of those families who need the support. And then, like, you look on our social media. Now, I don't do our social media anymore. We've got Ruth who does that, who does an absolutely amazing job.
She does do a great job.
Yeah, honestly, I'm such a technophobe as well, you know what I mean? Like, Canva just blew my mind in terms of what it needed to do posts. But it is much more about information giving and kind of signposting people to the different things that we've got, so that no matter where people are at in their grief, they know what options they've got, what support groups we've got, and things like that.
And your website is unbelievable.
Yeah.
You know, it's so informative, and you know, you go on there and it's dead clear, bang, bang, bang.
Oh,
bang.
nice. That's
And
really
there's
good.
so much on it.
Yeah, your mission statements, everything. I mean, I've wrote down here like the support. So you've got the Bodie bereavement service, the monthly support groups, the children and young people, you know, for siblings, and then you've got resources, you've got useful links, just for support. For families. I think that's incredible.
No, thank you. That's. I mean, like, it's incredible what's happened over the last few years, and I've got to say, I kind of backed away a little bit from it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because I was super involved in it, too much involved in it. It was impacting a little bit on my work as well, my day job, and I could see that happening. I was starting to make mistakes, and then Donna was slowly kind of getting more and more involved, and she's like super talented in terms of kind of a background in kind of organisational development and stuff, and she's come in, taken over the reins, and has just absolutely driven it forward in such an immense way. The people she's taken on, the team we've got are incredible. So I just get wheeled out for the occasional speech and stuff like that now, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but your
Damage
organisational
limitation.
skills and I would say your ability to bring a lot of people to the events, and the amount of clout that you bring in terms of names, and you know, John Barnes, and you don't hear you know, charities bringing in people like that, especially into Leicester, and you know, really making a stir of it and getting a lot of people involved.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been very lucky again in terms of sponsors and support that we've had. Again, because I'm not from Leicester, a lot of the charities locally, they rely on, and there's some fantastic support from local businesses, but they're all their contacts within Leicester. I'm lucky, I've got a lot of contacts outside.
Of course,
and you know, I'm very lucky in terms of, I've got a couple of friends who've done very, very well for themselves, and they've wanted to support it. So they've kind of been able to help us fund getting some of those bigger names in. I mean, when we had the Soccer Saturday team there, do you know what I mean? Like, all 4 of them. I mean, I don't even want to say how much it cost, but it was covered. It was covered by our sponsor, ridiculously generously done. And then that gives us the ability to draw so many people in, and that's where you make money on the night. So I've always tried, and Donna's continued and does it even better. We've never run it as a charity, we've run it as a business, in terms of the way that we operate to try and grow it. And you know, we've been successful. Of course, we've made mistakes along the way, and we will probably continue to make mistakes. We all do. But the fact is, it's just like, we just had this capital appeal now. We've taken 2 years. We've raised 450 grand in 2 years.
I read that on the website.
Yeah, which is
for the building.
Yeah,
it's towards the building. The Bodie Hodges
building.
So
it's now ours. So, which is absolutely insane when you look at like the kind of economic situation in the country and kind of cost of living crisis. When we initially said, right, we're going to try and go for this, we kind of had a little bit of a back out in terms of, if we didn't get all the way there, what we could do was basically put whatever we'd raised down as a big deposit, and then we'd just have a smaller mortgage, if you know what I mean. But yeah, to have actually done 450 grand in 2 years is mental. But then I'll go a little bit Roy Keane on this now, because it's a bit like, I'm not going to spend 6 months celebrating the fact that we've got the building. It's amazing, and all of us are kind of like, we've now got a long-term future. We want to become a specialist bereavement hub in Leicestershire and beyond. But it's like, well, okay, that's done now. What's next? And now the next thing is, at the moment, we support families up to the age of 18. We want to support families up to the age of 25, because if you've got a 19-year-old who dies, that doesn't mean it's less important than a child from 0 to 18.
Have you ever had to have that kind of conversation? Because I'd imagine that'd be super difficult.
I've never had to, because I'm not in. We've got an amazing, obviously, kind of bereavement team now. I don't know the vast majority of. Well, I don't know anyone who's involved in the service unless they come to our dad's group. Which
is that the Chips one?
Yeah, Chips and the Chat.
Chips. Yeah. I thought that was amazing.
Even all the names about what everything's sort of chosen and named after is brilliant.
I thought that was amazing, because obviously that's sort of an idea that we've got for Reboot. So it for me, it stood out. I was like, wow, that's amazing for dads. Bang.
Do you know what?
Dads don't talk.
This is my big thing, right? Is that we've been running that now kind of 2 years in May. So we meet once a month, and the idea of it is, and I'm not being disrespectful to groups where you go and you get a cup of tea and you sit in a circle and you talk about how you're feeling. We never wanted that, because we wanted to provide an opportunity, like a safe environment where people could go, and if they wanted to chat about it, they could chat about it. If they didn't want to chat about it, they could sit there and listen. So, not sit there and listen, because they could just be part of the group and listening on what other people are saying. So what we do is each month we go, and like last time we went down to Social Sixes. We've been down at East Street Lane to play shuffleboard.
Social Sixes is the cricket.
Yeah, the indoor cricket, a batting cage thing.
There,
and then we've done like interactive darts, pool. Sometimes we go and just have a walk around, like in the summer we go around Everard's Meadow and then go and have some like chips and that in the beer hall after.
Brilliant.
So every time we do it, but we never finish a game, ever. Because basically what happens is we start having a go and then we just start chatting, and then, do you know what I mean? It's
that's
just
sort
the
of the side. That's sort of the side thing.
Exactly. It's just something to kind of help get people there. But what's amazing about it is everyone always says men don't talk, and this is where it kind of comes into the mental health side of things, because obviously grief is massively,
hugely,
completely and utterly shatters your mental health. And if you give people the right platform, they'll talk. And that's what it is. It's about providing different types of platform. Now, I know what we do won't work for everybody, and they might think, oh no, I just couldn't do that. I'd rather actually just go and sit with a couple of people in a room, talk about how I'm feeling. We've got kind of like me, teacher. We've had a vicar come. We've had Sparkies. We've had guys who kind of work in middle management. You've got people from all walks of life. And if it was anywhere else, you probably wouldn't ever socialise under any of those circumstances in any way at all. But as soon as you get there, I can look across the table. First time I met him, I know that you know how I'm feeling. And he knows that I know how he's feeling. And it's like,
there's a power to that.
There massively is. There absolutely massively is.
Just bringing everyone together.
Yeah. I mean, like, for you, Pipes, like, obviously when you were in rehab and stuff like that, obviously people are in there for different reasons, I'm guessing. But I'm sure it's the same thing there. Like,
it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
I think how you just explained it. And what was difficult for me is everyone that was in Tony Adams's foundation at the time, Sporting Chance, all the counsellors, the psychotherapists, all of them had suffered with addiction.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
And some were 19 years clean, some were 3 years clean, 10 years clean. And, you know, as you're looking across at them, or you're in a group setting, you know everyone's there, has been through what you've been through.
Yeah.
There's a power to that.
Absolutely.
And you feel like you can open up to those people. And as you was explaining it there, it just felt sort of exactly the same as how I felt, because I didn't talk to no one. He beats himself up all the time for not really knowing how deep and desperate it got.
Yeah.
But I ain't going to talk to him.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
I didn't talk to Dan. I didn't talk to anyone close to me.
Well, it's interesting because a few of the guys have said there. I mean, we have an average of about anywhere between about 6 to 8, I'd say, on a regular basis. Sometimes we might get 10 or 12. We haven't got a huge group. A lot of guys just don't feel they're ready for it, which is fine, because this is something they can come to at any point. Some of our services we only offer for the first 2 years because it's that initial trying to get them kind of back up and running. But this is anyone, any child of any age who's died, they can come along to it. And for some people, they use the service and then that becomes their natural progression. Right, I don't need the service anymore. Thank you for what you've done. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to stick with the group now because it gives me more regular kind of contact. But some of the guys I've said to me before, we'll talk about stuff here and I'll talk to other guys, other bereaved dads here about things I wouldn't speak to my wife about because I think it would upset them. And they don't mean that in a nasty way. It's just, it's almost a bit, like some blokes go down to football just to get all their anger out, don't they? They just shout and shout and shout.
I only know too well, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
But that Piper on the radio.
But that's where you know what I mean. They just get and no one comes in. People aren't angry, but people will just let things out.
Yeah, they vent.
Exactly.
They go to things to vent.
Yeah, and they just know that all of us are just going to be. Yeah, no, I get you. I totally understand. And we got guys at all different points. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of almost 12 years down now, and I've always tried to be. I think it's just naturally who I am. I try and be quite positive about things. I mean, there's times when you find it very hard to be positive, and I know that you'll know that more than anyone, Pipes. Do you know what I mean? That you can't see the wood for the trees. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's always having those little things to cling on to. And I've always talked about, this isn't really good for a podcast, but I've always talked about grief. If it's your hand, it's right in front of your face there when it first happens.
Yeah.
And it's never going anywhere except for slowly away. It will never disappear altogether, but everything else in your life starts to come back in, family, friends, work. At first, I didn't care about my work. I remember I had a lesson observation done 2-3 months after I'd been back, and my head of department was amazing. He looked after me just so well. He got hardly anything wrong at all, and he's quite a character as well. He really was. So he could have gone the other way, and he'd done this lesson observation of me, and I think I got something like a satisfactory. And to be fair, I used to normally get goods. I should say outstandings. Really, I used to get outstandings, but he just said to me because it lacked a bit of sparkle, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you actually? What were you expecting? Do you know what I mean? I've been back 2 or 3 months. What is?" He goes, "Well, do you want to do it again?" I'm like, "No, because I don't care. I really don't care. I was literally there to pick up a wage. Do you know what I mean?" And to be fair, I wasn't. I was doing more than that. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't literally just turning up, but I'd let my standards slip, and as that kind of time moves on, as I say, I could have one thing which might happen, bang, that grief is back. What, one thought in your head, that grief's back there, it ain't moving for an hour, and it just absolutely swipes your legs from under you. But then, as I say, as time goes on, I can get it now. I could be middle of the day, something now, I'll have a thought about Bodie. Sometimes it can be a happy thought, sometimes it can be something which is almost kind of quite traumatic. Bang, it's like that, and then someone might say something, bang, you're back out of it, and it's over there, and you're, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, right, we need to do this, we need to do that. And I think part of my role in this group really is to say to people, you don't feel like it now, you feel like you're wading through a sea of treacle, but honestly, you will get to that point where you know it's going to change you, your life's never going to be the same again, but that grief will, in time, move out of vision, move out of sight, and you can start to enjoy things, you can start to find happiness in things again, you can start to take pride in things, and things start to matter to you again, but you're not being disrespectful because it will never go away, it's always going to be there. And that's just kind of where I've got to now, and I think that's important to share with those dads because it does give them a little bit of hope, and I think that's the basis of everything we're trying to do with a charity, because when we walked out of that hospital, as I said earlier, and we had like a brown paper bag with national helplines on it, I'm like, are you being serious? This is it. This is all the support that we've got. And that was the kind of first thing, well, listen, right, but I just wasn't ready at that time to start trying to work out what we were going to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not the same when they send you off when you've just had your first kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're like, oh, what do we do now?
Yeah,
then?
exactly, yeah.
You're just staring at each other, staring at the thing that you got in front of you.
Yeah. Where's the instructions?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are we going from here? So,
Nick, 3 words. Sorry, Dan. 3 words I got, because you just said it a minute ago. 3 words that popped out for me again on your website is hope, compassion, and resilience.
Yeah.
And you've shown all them through your journey. So you passing that on to the other guys and using your, I don't want to say experience, but what you've gone through must really.
It is a lived experience.
It's a lived
experience. It's a lived experience.
It must really help them guys more than you probably realise.
Well, I hope. Do you know what I mean? Because it's if you. There's no word that will ever describe what it's like losing a child. There's no. You can say it's awful, it's horrendous, you're in a dark place. You can say anything like that. It doesn't. There's no word that exists to explain how you feel, other than just empty, completely and utterly empty, and you just don't know how you're going to pick yourself up. But I think it's really important that you do show people that you can get through it. I also had a friend who I went to uni with, and to be fair, I hadn't seen him since we left uni. I went to his wedding, but I hadn't seen him since then. He got married very soon after uni.
I hope you don't listen to
no,
Yeah. Evening, Tom. And very sadly, he had his daughter died. Well, I think she was about 9 or 10. But I've not seen him. I've still not seen him since. He lives down in Essex, and I didn't even realise that his daughter had died until it was around about the time everyone started getting on Facebook. Because I'd kind of lost contact for 4 or 5 years, unless it was Friends Reunited, if anyone can remember that.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he sent me a message, a really nice message, and I remember him saying to me, "Now you're going to be in a really dark place for a couple of years, but you will get through it. You will be okay." And I really held on to that. And I remember reading loads of books, and I'm not a reader at all. I read yours, Pipes.
Oh, thank you, man.
And I remember reading all these books about what I wanted to know is when I'd feel better. Right, and obviously there's no answer.
There's no time scale.
No, of course there's not.
It's different for different people.
But I wanted to know what other people had been through, because it was almost like, it's a bit like if you've got a hangover, when am I going to feel better? But it's almost like, when am I going to start to not hurt so much as I do now?
Did you read any that really helped? Like names of the book, just in case anyone is...
I can't remember. I remember reading one. It's quite a short book, which was good for me because I'm not a good reader. But I remember reading about one, and it was some guy over in America, and it was about his child had died, and then I can't remember exactly. I'm sure it was that it was either him or his wife had then had an accident, and basically, when some people they're on a life support and they say they see the white lights and they go, but then they come back, and it was either him or his wife, I can't remember now, who spent time in heaven. And they saw their son again, and I remember that was that was massively powerful to me.
For you,
because it was a bit like, I'm not ready. I knew him for 10 months. I'm not ready to let go of him. I want to know that I've got somewhere else where I can see him again. And I just that kind of got me reading a little bit and looking into it, and it just felt very much like a lot of people saying, and this isn't, and I don't want this to come out as going, after 2 years you'll feel okay, because it's absolute rubbish. It's not. But generally the first 2 years tend to be the hardest. That doesn't mean year 3 all of a sudden is all right, and year 4 is all right. It just tends to be the first 2 years are the hardest.
And you've already explained with the hand and analogy, that it can come back and be right there again. And I know our friend Strings often talks about it being waves.
Yeah, completely.
When he spoke about it before, and because obviously I've lost people. I've lost my granddad when I was younger, and it can't be explained of a time scale of how different people are going to deal with it. How they're going to feel, what's going to help them, what isn't going to help them, what people should say, shouldn't say. It is really difficult, I think.
It is, it is, and like you say, you do get waves of it. You know what I mean? It's I had for all this kind of, like I was saying about earlier on, I just started running. Do you know what I mean? And I just kept myself busy. I focused. I threw everything into it. And I remember I did. When was it? October 2013. I ran first ever half marathon. I thought, I'm going to run a half marathon. I'll do it for Bodie. Do it as well to raise some money. I had a load of people who wanted to run it for us, and Bodie was a big old boy. He was a bouncing little baby, put it that way. Had a big appetite. He was obviously, he'd had a lot of the kind of steroids and stuff like that within the hospital, or the medicines and that. But he weighed in at 14 kilos when at the time when he was in hospital just before he died. So I decided I would run with him. So I wore a 14k weighted vest, and I can't. What was I saying that? What was I telling you about that for? I wore that for the first Leicester half marathon. What was I saying before that?
What did I ask?
This is an edit, Owen.
What did I ask?
I can't remember why I was saying it.
I was just talking about how difficult it would be for...
about the waves, sorry.
About the waves.
I'm back in the roots.
Said strings, yeah.
That's right.
Waves a bit.
That's right. I did the half
Strings
marathon.
said that to me, and
that's right.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of it explained like that before.
Yeah, and it can, but I think you can kind of almost put these waves off at times. That doesn't mean you can't stop those feelings, but you can try and push them away. And it caught up with me. I put so much focus into the early part of the charity and then the run and everything like that. I lost a lot of weight because I tried to subsidise carrying 14 kilograms by losing 14 kilograms. And I think it got to November, and again it was at school. I went in, and I'm quite calm as a teacher, and a group of year sevens Monday morning, hammering it down with rain outside. I think I had a double up, and so I had about 60 kids in there on my own, and I kind of lost the plot a little bit in there, and not in an unprofessional way.
No,
but
of course
it
not.
was one of those things. Part of your job, you have to kind of tell them off at times, and again, my gaffer came in and. Happened to do a drop-in lesson observation, and when I walked out there, I said, "You don't even need to say anything." I said, "I'm going to go and have a chat with line leader because I need to go." And I signed off for about 3 weeks, and I had a bit of a breakdown. And what it was, I think I just needed that time. I needed that time just to be alone, kind of with my thoughts, and like pretty much every day I was going out. It got really lucky. It was like November time, but it was just loads of sunshine around that time. So just going out, and I was walking loads. And I managed to sort my head out, and I kind of had about a year, around about the same time again, I think I just used to work myself so hard, I'd get to the point where I'd start to break down a little bit, and I can manage that now. Do you know what I mean? I've not been like that in years now, but I manage things better. As I say, it's like the charity looks after itself now because it's so well run. You know, I haven't got these kind of pressures of coming home, finishing my day job, having tea, do you know what I mean? Doing the things you need to do with your family and going, right, now I've got to sit down for another 2-3 hours and I've got to kind of send emails. I've got to kind of like get social media posts out. I haven't got that pressure anymore. And I also got a bigger family now, you know, so I haven't got the time to do that. But definitely it can become very overwhelming at times, and it's difficult to control that, particularly early on. But like I say, you know, and I know what Strings is talking about because we've had this conversation before. It's when you don't see it coming, and it just absolutely, completely, and that's when it's hard. That's when it's really difficult. But fortunately, that doesn't happen as much anymore.
How do you push them away?
Just by filling your time.
Fill your time.
Yeah, filling my time. Just not sitting down, not thinking about it.
Yeah,
that's what I was doing, and so I was just like, right, this is because. Again, what I want with this charity is, and it was a little bit selfish, I suppose you could look at it that way. It's let's be honest with you, a child bereavement charity isn't particularly sexy, is it? Do you know what I mean? It's not the sort of thing where people are, let's jump all over that. And I know for a fact, I've had conversations with people where they've been slow to get involved because the thought of a child dying is very difficult for them to kind of understand. And I get that, I understand that.
People bury that.
Yeah.
People who it's not happened to, I think they think, God, that is so...
Yeah.
You know, you've even said it. I was thinking of some words that you would... Not that you would say, but you're quite... And forgive me, please don't take offence at this, Nick, but you're thinking, right, we're doing this interview.
Yeah.
Of course we're going to talk about Bodie. And what I wanted out of this, I wanted two big things.
Yeah.
I wanted... to celebrate Bodie and not have it all doom and gloom about Bodie, if you understand what I mean, and celebrate his life. I wanted the podcast to be about that, and I thought the other part is that you would have so much and this is not in a selfish way for the podcast, but so much helpful information on grief and how to sort of deal with it.
Yeah.
I thought, and then you start asking some of the questions on the podcast, and this is just because I want this podcast to be really honest. And then you look at you and you're listening to some of the questions, and I'm thinking, oh my God, has he just took offence at that? No, I know you haven't. I know you haven't, but I think it goes back to my point earlier of, and you said it's not a sexy charity. It's because I think people are so fearful of that. Yeah. They're like, oh God, I wouldn't know what to say. I wouldn't know where to start. I don't know what words to use. Yeah. You use the word awful and you think, have I categorised that right? Should it be something? Do you know what I mean?
And I think that's why, in a way, we've had some success with it in terms of, I've wanted to have some fun along the way as well.
That's exactly why I wanted to get you on, to show that, mate.
Exactly. I mean, like, I've got to do some things which I would never have done had it not been for this charity and had it not been for Bodie. I mean, standing on the start line of the Great North Run, literally 5 metres away from, Mo Farah, like literally in there with all the celebrities. I'm absolutely zero status celebrity, but you get on the front line.
Now McAndrew.
Now McAndrew.
Now McAndrew did it with you. Yeah, Rendell Munro.
Yeah, Rendell's done it every time I've done it. We've done it 8 times.
Cheeky, yeah.
Big celebrity, Cheeky. Well, he's in Newcastle.
Strings.
Yeah, Strings has done it plenty of times. Things like that I'd never have got to done. All of the events that we've put on. But once you start putting these events on, you're giving people something to talk about, and it's their way in. So they haven't got they can come up to you and say, I went to one of your events, it's great. And it's an opener for about the charity. Not that thing of, I'm really sorry about what happened. It's that thing of, I hear you had John Barnes, I hear you had the Soccer Saturday guys, I hear you got a golf day at the Belfry. And I've had so much fun with and we'll continue. I've got a real big thing for events. I love it. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of my thing. And if I want to teach, I think I'll be involved in some kind of events company or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you're amazing at it.
I mean,
I've played at the Belfry twice.
And actually out of one of the ponds as well.
Let's not mention that.
Oh, was that video?
Yeah, that was at Nick's event. For Bodie. Brilliant. You get there, but what I wanted to say is, and sometimes you think, I don't want to say it because is it disrespectful to Bodie's memory? But you get to those events and you never feel like you're at an event where a child has died and this charity started because of that.
Yeah.
And when I was on the website earlier, and I've been on it, many times before, but one thing that really stood out to me, and you mentioned it today, because I thought, do I mention it, do I not? Because I don't want you to think I'm being insensitive or trying to highlight something. You're on there, and there is not too much about Bodie.
Yeah, yeah.
And you mentioned that because it is now, he's always going to be there.
Yeah.
And he's always going to be, that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But it is now about the charity and helping other families and their extended families and their friends, and that is such a powerful charity and message, mate, that you and Donna have created.
Thank you.
And I wanted that to come out on this podcast.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, it's the direction that we've gone in, and as soon as we were able to open a bereavement service, obviously a lot more families became involved in what we were doing.
Yeah.
And, the way I like to see it as well now is this is their charity as well. Don and I, we've got the lived experience. It's kind of almost like through our lived experience, we help steer the ship. But it's everybody's charity. Everybody's involved in any way. Do you know what I mean? You are part of our charity. You've been a big part of our charity in terms of coming and supporting, helping us get the name out there. Rendell, from day one, he was involved in the charity. He's been absolutely incredible. We've had a lot that's come about as a result. I mean, I went to watch him in his. It was the world title eliminator against. What's the lad? Josh Warrington.
Oh, Josh Warrington. Yeah.
When he was having his kind of comeback from that. Yeah. Sat up in the MEN Arena or whatever it was called, then up in Manchester. Seeing Bodie come out, seeing Rendell come out wearing a Bodie hat.
Yeah, brilliant.
Do you know what I mean? In front of full house. And it was just like, literally, I sat up there, just tears in my eyes. Do you know what I mean? Thinking, this is And for Rendell, it's like, well, just putting that on, isn't it? But I mean, you don't go anywhere without
It's not. It's because of you. It's because of Bodie. It's because he really believes in the charity. He spoke so much to me about the charity.
Yeah,
and he's a great kid. We've known him. We've known him since Beaumont Lee's Lane days. He lived round the corner from us, him and his brother. So we've known him a long time.
My only disappointment in all of it is I didn't know Rendell when he was at the top of his game. I'd love to have gone and seen him fight when he was having all his against Kiko Martinez and all of those guys. But I mean, he's been an amazing support, as I say, for the charity. But as I say, it's everybody's charity, and it's just the direction we've gone in now. All of those families who access the services in whatever way they do. We want them to help us grow it. And I don't mean that for financially. What I mean by that is by, again, them sharing their experiences, because everyone grieves differently. What do you think? We're constantly asking people, what do you think? How can we make this better? What do we need to do to improve? And it's just about trying to do things to high quality, isn't it? I've never wanted to be, and this isn't being disrespectful to other charities, I've never wanted to be a tin shaking charity. Do you know what I mean? It just kind of, does bucket collections here and there. I mean, it's part of what we do. We have done that. But I've always wanted to do things to a high quality where it's almost like, again, events to almost a professional event standard. And I think we've gone a long way to doing that.
And fun.
Yeah,
I would always use that word with your events that you put on.
That's what we want. That's what we want, that so that people go there, they enjoy it, and then they want to associate themselves. It's, you can't just rely on social media. "Oh, come and support us, please. Can you?" We're having a campaign. If you just keep asking, then you're going to struggle. And I find that even with like running, I don't very often set up pages for like Great North or any marathons or anything like that, because otherwise I'll be doing it all the time. People are just going to get fed up. So even for the London Marathon this time, I've not even I'm actually sharing a page with a guy called Nick Hodges who I'm running it with. We've just basically sold sponsorship on our shirts as our way of trying to raise the money, and we put a night on in November, the moderators over at Shearsby Bath. We've absolutely caned the amount of money we needed to make between the two of us, but not really have we gone to anyone going, "Oh, just give us a £5, give us a £10." There will be opportunity for people to do that, but you can't rely on that now.
No.
You've got to do something different.
Out of the box thinking.
Yeah, of course
I've always thought that about, the foundation.
Yeah.
Ever since I got involved the first time, obviously I'd heard about it more from Strings early on in the days, but then I was thinking, a Santa fun run round where everyone dresses up as Santas, kids, parents, and they run around the racetrack down Hoadby. You're like, I was like, what's that? I've never heard of a charity doing that. And then John Barnes is down, and then at the Belfry, Strings was like, "Do you want to?" Or I think you asked me actually, Nick. "Do you want to go and play in a golf day?" I think Strings might have asked me first. He said, "There's a golf day coming up," and I said, "Oh, where is it? Humberston Heights?" "No, mate, it's at the Belfry." "What?"
Yeah, I remember asking if I could come on it.
And then Nick's mentioned it earlier on the most famous hole where Sever hit it from 190 yards back and dropped it on the green over the water. I tried to replicate it from 30 yards from the water. And ended up pinging it in the water. And then I thought, and Nick...
There is a famous video going around.
Yeah, there is. But Nick kindly always puts on, you can get booze there. And so I had a few drinks on the holes, and then I was like quite merry, so I just went in after the ball.
Yeah.
Didn't take my shoes and socks off. And then I was doing a talk that night at the event, wasn't I? Where me and Strings were on stage telling a few stories with a big puddle underneath me.
You tried to play it in the water.
I tried to play it. It was a disaster. But Nick on them events sort of drives around. He's bantering people. It's it's always fun. And
it's. I love them. They are brilliant fun. And say I was big into golf when I was a kid. I even had aspirations of not tour professional, but like being a club professional when I was younger. And so I've always loved my golf. And the first time that we talked about a golf day, again, it was like, well, we could have done it at Leicestershire Golf Club, and like, everyone does that. And so, well, should we do the Belfry? And I was talking with Paul, who worked for us at the time, and he mentioned it to me, and he'd been involved in a couple of golf days there before, and I'm like, you can't do it on a Ryder Cup course, because how much is that going to cost, and how much are we going to have to charge people? There's no way we can do it. Well, these are the figures, and I'm like, all right, we'll give it a go.
Let's do it.
And I was like, let's see how it runs. And as I say, fortunately, we've got some quite generous sponsors. And as soon as you've covered your costs, you think, well, we want to make some money, and we had a few ideas of the way we could make money on the day, and now it's like we've done it for 5 years in a row now, and
at the Belfort,
at the Belfort on the Brabazon, so it's like an established golf day. I know the guys there really well now.
Brilliant.
And it's a bit like, what's going on? Again, this is another thing. My lad has taken me to running a golf day on a Ryder Cup course, one of the most famous Ryder Cup courses, from someone who's a massive golf fan. It's a bit like, do you know what I mean? Just wobble your head for a minute. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
You gave him a legacy.
Well, exactly, and that's what I love about it. He's given me, you know what I mean? 10 months old, but he's given me so much as well.
Powerful.
Yeah.
He's giving so many people so much, mate.
He has. He has it.
Well, look at all the lives that he's touched.
Yeah. I know, and you said about. Because one thing, I know we're not like prepped anything. I've got no notes, anything like that in front of me.
We don't. We don't want the combo, mate.
But one thing I was thinking about today is like part of my job at the school I work at is on they call it healthy lifestyles lead. So a lot of kind of PE now is having to get involved more in the kind of like the children's mental health side of things, and starting to develop that. And I did a course about 3-4 years ago now, which a lot of schools, particularly primary schools in Leicestershire, have done. It's called Routes to Resilience. And it is the single best initiative I've ever seen in education.
Wow.
So it's all based around, and the reason is because obviously it's resilience. It's all based around character muscles. So obviously the focus for most people is results, GCSEs, you know what I mean, SATs and all stuff like that. And it's very much focused on national curriculum. Starting to kind of, it's like an oil tanker turning in the sea, but obviously people are starting to take on more about understanding mental health and well-being. And the idea behind these character muscles is that you go down the gym, if you want to make your arms bigger, you're going to do the weights and you're going to do the exercises that are going to increase the size of your biceps and your triceps. To become more resilient as a person, what we've got to do is identify our character muscles. So as an example, at our school, we have 3. One of them is resilience. One of them is problem solving, and one of them is independence. So the idea is that throughout your life on a daily basis, like problem solving, most people say, are you good at problem solving? Oh, I'm not very good at maths. Do you know what I mean? Most people immediately think that. Whereas actually, you're problem solving. If I leave here now and get my way to the front door, I'm problem solving because I've got to work out how to get to the front door without crashing into anything, finding my way. And it's about helping people to understand what their kind of strengths are, understanding as well areas where they need to work on, but then pointing that out to them as they're doing it. That's really good problem. So I say it to my girls all the time. I go, Dad, can you do this for me? Well, can't you do it? Can you not problem solve it? And because I say it so much to them now, I don't get anything back from them. They just go and try and work it out. And if they need some help, I'll give them some help. And resilience is one of those things because you never know when you're going to need it. Do you know what I mean? So when you do have something just completely out of the blue happens like it did to me, you go to work one day and then literally an hour later your life has changed forever. You have to be able to, and I heard you talk about this in the first episode, having your toolkit. Having that toolkit. And you don't think, hang on a sec, I'll just go and pull this out to deal with this situation. It's just stuff that's innate within you because you've worked on it. And this route to resilience and these character muscles has been, it's an amazing thing. It's absolutely incredible. It's great in terms of kids getting to know who they are as a person, how to develop themselves, and having that toolkit that's ready. And it's the same with, I look at our men's group, and some guys have got better set of tools to deal with things than others. And it's almost that thing of, people go, oh, you're so strong. And it's a bit like, well, I'm not strong, I ain't got a choice. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But what I do know is that I've become more resilient because I can look at things now which used to really bother me before, and I'm like, really? You know what I mean? That doesn't bother me in the slightest. And it just allows, when something like that, and it'd be interesting, Part, to see what you think about this. When something massive happens in your life, you could almost put your life into blocks, into like tower blocks or whatever. So you got your work, you got your hobbies, you got your kind of family life. When something like happened with you, and happened with me, it just smashes them all down. And whilst that's really disruptive and it completely throws you, what it does give you the chance is to rebuild how you want it. Yeah. So all of a sudden you start going, do you know what? I always thought that person was an idiot, so I'm just not going to bother with them anymore. Or I never actually really enjoyed doing that, so I'm going to stop doing this. Actually, I'm not happy in my job. I want to move. I want to change something. I want to do something that's far more satisfying. I'm not motivated by money. I just want this. And you can rebuild your life how you want. And again, it's those those tools that you can kind of call on to help you to start to rebuild again.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly that. I mean, I think for all of us, I mean, one of the other reasons why James and Dan wanted to do this podcast with me as well is because they've struggled with mental health as well. But a few things from what you've just said, so to sort of answer that last point that you just made, is I think everything completely got smashed away. And when you do get to rebuild from, because I was struggling, obviously, the only way I was sort of grown up and sort of what everything that I was about was a footballer.
Yeah.
So when it's all over, there's the ex-footballer. He's the footballer. You haven't got your own identity. You haven't got anything anymore. So I think, and I don't know, I didn't do this consciously, but you go away and then all of a sudden you're the one that's out all the time. You're drinking, you're taking drugs, you're trying to take your own life, blah, 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 blah. All this, it all gets smashed away. And this is why the foundation that we're hoping to start is called The Reboot. Because when it's all gone and it's all ashes and tatters on the floor and you've got to start again, it's actually, there's a strength in that.
Yeah.
Because you haven't got to think about, what about pretending to be the footballer, or do you understand what I mean by that? Because it's really hard, and I think that's why a lot of sports people, especially, or famous people, they struggle to start something new after that career is finished, especially footballers, because they're always judged against being the footballer. Where my life was sort of over, finished, and then it's so much easier to rebuild. So a lot of footballers rang me back in the day and said, I used to do this thing called MPTV, and some of them used to say to me, from a kind place in their heart, what the fuck are you doing? Mate, people are watching you kicking balls down the park, trying to show kids how to swerve the ball. You've got 7 views. I was like, I've not got nothing to protect.
Exactly.
Whereas I think ex-footballers, imagine Jamie Vardy disappears for 3 years, comes back and then starts doing a YouTube channel, getting 7 views and telling people how to kick a ball. People will be like, mate.
Do you
know what I mean?
Completely,
so I exactly get what you mean. So there is, when it's all gone and you're at the lowest point in your life, it's terrible and it's awful, and you are in, the pits of everything that's, happened in your life up until that point. But there is a glimmer of hope because you can build again and you can rebuild it.
It gives you like an element of control again, doesn't it? All of those things which you're never quite happy with, but how can you back out of them? Because that's what everyone knows you for.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Exactly
and
that.
then all of a sudden it's like, okay, this is awful, horrendous, and I would switch back. I would switch back to our Bodie now, and I'd take. I think I've become a better person. I think I've got a different type of life now. But if I could switch back, I'd switch back to having Bodie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And of course I would do that. But that was one of the things where I used to think, well, I can build this how I want, which is a little bit now why it's things like on social media. I used to do, as I say, I used to do like all of our social media, and I was just really open. I look back at it sometimes now and I'm a bit like, I can't believe I said that. But I look at it and I think, that's where I was at the time. That's who I was. That's how I was feeling. And it's okay. It's fine. And it's a bit like LinkedIn. I mean, LinkedIn's the weirdest place in the world. I mean, I don't know if everyone knows what goes on.
I do LinkedIn a little bit.
I do quite like it, but most of the day I just cringe at the things that people put on there. But I don't. In a way, I don't care. I'll put that. If people don't like it, so what? Do you know what I mean? Because I'm not. That's where I kind of have this thing of I'm not really that bothered. I'm not that bothered. If I respect someone, I don't want to upset them. I want them to respect me. If I don't respect someone, I don't care what they think of me. I really, really don't. And I think I'm always maybe a little bit like that. But I think ever since Bodie, and that's what's helped a little bit, because I probably did take more risks early on. I'm not a massive risk taker, but I probably did take more risks, because it's kind of like, do I put this out? Do we have a go at this? Do we not? And it's kind of, I'm not bothered what people think. We're just going to give it a go. Do you know what I mean? And again, it's just part of that kind of rebuilding process. I think that you go through, and as I say, you've got your why. Do you know what I mean? In terms of you don't want to go back. And I know you talked really honestly again in that first episode about, is it opioids? Is that how you say it? You spoke really honestly about that, which is great, and that's what you're going to get with you, Pipes. You know what I mean? Is honesty.
The worry about that was, and the constant worry, I think, and I haven't really got an answer for this. So if anyone's listening and they think, wow, it's, him talking so open and honest about what's gone before. I mean, the difficulty now is people see me as. That's why I wanted to explain that. Oh, he's come out of it. He's come through it, and now he's got a problem again. Oh my God, he's just going to be one of them guys that's addicted to drugs all his life. And some people often attach to that you can never trust that person. But it's important, if we're going to tell the truth on this podcast, that you say it. And if someone, turns around and thinks, you can't trust him. I mean, I've got an important position that I love doing at the BBC. I was thinking, I wonder if one of the bosses is going to think, what? He was taking opioids while he was doing our show. He's gone. It could have happened. I don't know. But it's important. Me as a person now, when you know yourself as a footballer, I think it happens a lot to footballers. I think it may have happened with you, and it's probably a conversation that we'll have in the future. But because football is so focused, James talks about it earlier, a focus and a streamline, and I want to be a footballer. And you don't get to know yourself as a human being. No. You don't really know.
You don't.
You don't know who you are. So imagine you make it, you get to 26 years old, and then it's all over and it's gone, and you're looking around thinking, who the fuck am I? What do I like? What are my passions? What is my purpose now? Football's gone. You don't know yourself, and it's easier to just go, you know what? Pass that spliff. Or let's go out and get steaming. And now you've got to a point in your life where you do know know yourself, and it feels
with age and experience.
With age experience, it feels good.
I've got to learn myself through all the crap that I've gone through, because without that, I don't think. You question, you just plod, don't you? And you sort of go through one thing. And I think what you just said there, like the rebuilding stage, it almost hardens you a little bit, I think, to certain situations. And you go, I really don't give a shit about that. Or I'm not really bothered about that. But you're happier. Do you know what I mean? No, you're happier not trying to please someone, or you're happy not trying to... worrying about, if I say that might happen, or this might happen. So I totally get your point. I agree with it.
It's interesting what you said there, because as much as I'd love to sit here and say I was a really good footballer, I wasn't. But in terms of, I kind of, obviously I've had my career in teaching. I've been teaching like 19 years now. So I'm kind of, experienced in terms of a teacher. I've got a reputation as a teacher, a decent one, I think. And but I became so involved as this kind of figurehead of the Bodie Hodges Foundation. And I think I mentioned to you on the phone when we spoke, I said, I'm almost going through a bit of a transition. So over the last couple of years, it's not a purposeful withdrawal from it, but because of the way the charity's been heading, because of Donna doing such a good job with the team and the way that they've moved things forward, I've been needed less. As I say, I still love the events, I still get involved in events, but I'm nowhere near as involved as I used to be. And kind of part of me was a bit like, I'm losing my identity here a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Because I was this figurehead of the Bodie Hodges Foundation, and all of a sudden I've gone for a bit where, I'm not really needed anymore. Do you know what I mean? And I kind of, it was weird at first, but I've kind of...
Was there any resentment there for that?
No, there's not a resentment, because ultimately I would do anything for that charity to be the success it needs to be to help people.
And was that a joint decision though?
When I say it, it was almost like an organic thing really that happened. Donna was taking more on, and she was increasing the amount of time that she was doing there because we were getting to the point where it was needed. And I was kind of like backing off it. We were getting people in who had a new skill set, who could you can, like, for example, social media. You can take that now, that's fine. I'd be getting involved in events and I'd go, I'm really busy at work, do you know what I mean? I'm struggling to get this done, I'm struggling to get that done. It's almost like, if I go for the event with you once, you'll then know what you're doing. I'll always be here to support you, but you can kind of lead on it, etc. And so it's kind of like, it happened gradually over a period of time. But then it was kind of like, it's weird. It was about just over a year ago, I went over to Dublin with some of the lads who I grew up with back in Hereford. And there were a lot of the lads who, when I was 17, 18, used to play at the football club, and I used to work behind the bar. We had a social club in town, and a lot of the lads were a good 6, 7 years older than me and my group of mates, but we always got on really well with them, and they're kind of like our mentors in drinking, if you know what I mean. And so we used to go to the Grand National every year, and I think I did about 10 years in a row, and the last time I did it was literally about 3 weeks before Bodie had his accident and went into hospital. So I've never been back. It's just something I've just found too difficult to do. And then last year, they decided they're going to go over to Dublin in January. They have the Dublin Racing Festival. And I'd not seen, except for 2 of them, there's about 12 of us going, I'd not seen any of them since just before Bodie had died. They're kind of mates, but they're not really, really close mates, if you know what I mean, in terms of not the sort of people
Kept in touch over social media still.
Well, kind of, but a lot of them are like, they're 6, 7 years older than me. They don't know how to work social media. In fact, 2 of them are just retired. And so I was a bit nervous going over there, because I thought, I don't know how to play this, because they know about Bodie, and I've kind of had messages from some of them and stuff like that. And when I got over there, I spent from the Friday night through to getting on the plane again on the Sunday, non-stop laughing, and just telling old stories, just having a laugh with everything that was going on. And I've always been known as Hodgie. And I was Hodgie from the Friday to the Sunday, not Bodie's dad. And which is kind of a lot of what I carry with me around Leicester. Everyone knows me as a lot of people know me as Bodie's dad. Do you know what I mean? I get introduced as Bodie, which is fine. I've got no issues with that. I'm really proud of that. But I had that kind of almost 36 hours of life before. And they were really respectful. They did speak about Bodie, and they chatted a little bit about the charity and stuff like that. But it just took me back, and it was a bit like, do you know what? I've almost found a bit of my old self. And I'm never going to go back to being who I was, because obviously there's no way it can happen for the reasons I've explained. And I went over again this year, just like 3 weeks ago, which is the last time I had a drink, by the way. That's it, as I say, till May the 2nd.
We offered you one tonight, but you didn't.
Sticking on the water. But I did have enough in Dublin to keep me going for a couple of months. But it was the same again this time. Do you know what I mean? It was just, I just felt like Hodgie again. Do you know what I mean? And
that when you feel like that, because this. So when I was thinking about all that what you've just said, you think that as, and I'm not a broadcaster. I don't. I am a broadcaster, but I'm a summariser. I'm not a presenter. I'm not skilled at. Setting up interviews and the way that you try and extract information. I'm not particularly articulate. I don't think. I
disagree with that.
No, I don't think none of us are.
You're doing all right.
Thanks, Dan. No, but what I'm trying to say is, what you were saying there, where you were like Hodgie again. Is there, if you felt like that, is there guilt there for feeling like that because you think? And I'm not particularly saying it about you. This is where I'm saying I can't articulate what I'm trying to say. Is, that's happened, and that's, what you said. You're Bodie's dad. You're not Hodgie, and you're always. Do you always feel looked at through that lens by the majority of people that you interact with now?
It depends the crowd you're in. When I'm at school, when I was at Lancaster, yes sir. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
When I'm at Ashfield, I'm Nick, because we use first names. I imagine there's a number of other names of being known as well. But like again, when there's
did you get the question? What I mean?
No. I totally get what you mean. It's like
it's hard to articulate it. I think.
Well, there's 2 things to it. So it depends on the scenario. Like on social media, it's Bodie's dad, unless it's my own personal kind of social media. A lot of it would be it's Bodie's dad. When I'm going to events, it's Bodie's dad, and I'm happy with that. I'm proud of it. But I mean, most people haven't got a clue I'm a PE teacher. Most people don't know that I was a bang average footballer, that I used to like playing golf. They just know about the charity events and stuff like that, and I'm cool with that, and I'm absolutely fine with it, because it's all part of. I'd rather talk about the charity at something that's related to that to try and keep people engaged and interested in it. But the point you made about feeling guilty, this is something which a lot, particularly early on, loads and loads of bereaved parents, and again I can relate this particularly to the dads because these are some of the things that we kind of talk about, is that guilt of feeling like feeling okay to laugh, feeling okay to have a good time, feeling happy. And I mean, like after, again, in those first few months, probably the first year really, after Bodie had died, I didn't stop drinking altogether, but I kind of stopped drinking because you drink, you get the high of drinking, next day you get the low of the hangover, but you know it's going to finish. You know it's come, well, Wednesday in my case normally, no, but sometimes the Monday you feel all right again.
Yeah.
You're on such a low and there's hardly any highs. It's hard to explain. You could have a little high, but then you'd have a massive low after it. So as an example, one of my mates got me some tickets for Stone Roses, their comeback first gig at Heaton Park. This again is about 4 or 5 months after Bodie had died. In fact, it wasn't even that, it was about 2 months after. And I went along to that, had a few drinks, knew I just didn't want to get kind of drunk. But I had this kind of, I was looking forward to it again. It's like a thing I said earlier on about clinging on to something. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be good. But it never goes away. Do you know what I mean? It was there constantly. Like, I'm having a nice time. It'd go away, straight back, go away, come straight back in front of my face again in terms of that grief. And you'd have this massive low. And I think that's the problem is you get this guilt. If you have a bit of a high, you get this guilt and it leads you into a massive low. And you try and balance yourself as much as you can by not getting too excited by anything so that you don't get the low after. And there's just also that pure guilt of how can I be laughing? How can I be happy? How can I be enjoying myself when this has just happened? And a lot of people will talk about that, particularly early on. But this is what I was saying earlier on when we were talking, was that you can't force that. You can't say, well, in 6 months' time, I'll be all right. I'll be able to laugh again. Now, you'll be able to laugh before that. It's just how bad you might feel about feeling happy about something again. Whereas now, I can go and enjoy a day out like I did before Bodie. I can go and enjoy a holiday like I did before we had Bodie. It doesn't mean that the pain isn't still there. It doesn't mean it can't come back and absolutely sideswipe me. Sometimes, like I look at Bodie. Like Bodie would be year 8 now. So sometimes I find it difficult in terms of, I love my football. Always have. I've done loads of coaching. I've qualified as a coach way back in 97. So I used to do loads of football coaching. Obviously I've been involved with the school, around football teams and everything there. That was different because it was school, it was part of my job. I was doing that before. I can't go and get involved in a football team now, in terms of a kids football team. I would do it if one of my girls played football, and one of them did start playing but then started street dance. But that's the kind of things that I would find difficult to go and do. But yeah, it's the guilt thing is a part of the grief process. It's natural that you're going to feel that way. Some people feel it a lot more than others, and they just can't shake this feeling of being guilty if they might have a nice time, and that makes it ultimately harder for them in many ways. But I get it, 'cause it's that balancing. You don't want the high to be followed by this massive low. You just try and balance things out a little bit.
Is it a big thing on the process of allowing yourself? Because that's the thing, you've got to allow yourself. Because if you're always going to beat yourself up about it, the low's going to be there.
Yeah.
You've got to allow yourself to have that joy in your life again.
You just can't see it though. You just some see it earlier than others.
Yeah.
But like again, I know some bereaved dads who I've spoken to. They're years down the line, and they're still struggling with it. And literally, my heart goes out to them because I can't imagine how difficult. Knowing what that was like, I can't imagine how difficult that must be if you're still suffering from that.
Yeah,
many years later on.
Don't you think? I think there's a lot of judgment in it as well, because, say for instance, I know quite a high-profile case. So when Kobe Bryant died, and you got Vanessa, his wife. A lot of people are saying, I wonder when. Obviously, it was on social media and stuff, but I wonder when she will move on.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And it's not just that. When will they, when you first laugh again, I can't believe he's laughing.
Yeah.
He's only lost his missus 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
What's he laughing at?
Yeah.
Do you know, I think there's a lot of judgment where people are looking
About allowing yourself.
Do you know the worst case of this?
Of that.
Right, and this probably sums up, because it even got, hardly anyone picked up on this, right? And this shows what the problem we've got with society with grief, right? Particularly with child bereavement. Cristiano Ronaldo. So you remember 18 months ago, 2 years ago, his child died.
Yeah.
Right. And it was. I can't remember whether it was stillborn, whether she was stillborn. I think it was a girl, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Or
Just
whether
before.
it was very
Was
early.
it just before birth?
It
was
was-
it
yeah,
just
it was-
after birth?
I've got.
It was stillborn.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
got a feeling it
stillborn.
might have been stillborn. And the way that the press and the general public spoke about, well, he's not playing very well at the moment, and he's refusing to come into training. Do you know what I mean? A few months, he's coming in. What a disgrace! You know, he's dishonouring this legend that he's created. Hang on a second. You know what I mean? A few months ago, this guy's daughter died. He was back playing within 2 weeks. I didn't go back to work. It happened in the May. I didn't go back to work until the July, and it was very tentative steps. I kind of properly went back in the September. But like I said to you earlier on, I didn't care. Do you know what I mean? So of course he's gonna, but no one acknowledged that. No one actually. Well, do you know what? There's probably a reason behind this.
Yeah, of course.
And like social media, everyone else, it's just almost like, oh yeah, it's really sad his child died. Anyway, he'll probably be playing again in a couple of weeks. We're expecting him to you know, knock it out of the park again.
nothing.
Like he's not human.
Yeah.
Like his family are not human beings.
Yeah, it's shocking, and it don't matter who you are. If this happens, it don't matter whether you're a teacher, it don't matter whether you're unemployed, whether you're a builder, whether you're a multi-million-pound footballer. When this happens, it don't care. Grief doesn't care. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't discriminate in any way. It's just, it knocks everyone down to their lowest point. And I could have gone and had a chat with, it wouldn't matter whether it's Cristiano Ronaldo or whether it's one of the guys that comes to our group. He knows how I feel. I know how he feels. But the majority of the public don't understand that, and they just expect people to. It's the same with employers. I try and push this to people all the time. Don't expect people to come back in and start doing an amazing job or to the standards they normally do. Do you know what I mean? Support them, help them get back into it, ask them what they need, help them through that time, and you will get loyalty out of them, and you will probably get. Eventually, someone is going to come back and do just as good a job as they did before. But a lot of people just don't understand. Oh, well, are you not over that yet? You know what I mean?
So the foundation supports employers as well that might have.
Well, it's something we're taking. One of the future plans that we want to do quite soon, within the next kind of 18 months or so, is we want to take on someone who will be in charge of education. So that will involve not just going into schools. Because we do already support in schools, so we do sessions at the building, but we sometimes go into the school to support the children, so it's not as disruptive for them. But we want to go in and work with teachers. We want to go in and work with businesses to educate people actually on how best to deal with it. You know, my school, as I say, sadly, we probably have 2 or 3 child deaths a year, and if they're not children who are currently in the school, they might have left within a couple of years, so people who are still very much part of the community. So we probably have more bereavement training than most schools, and the bereavement training we've had has been excellent. It's been really good from external professionals. I've had to pick up a little bit again through my lived experience. I've put some stuff together. But it's a bit like when you go and do your first aid training. If you had to administer first aid the day after you've done your training, you'd nail it. You'd be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, of course.
If it's 3 months after, all of a sudden you'd be like, oh, I can't remember how to put a bandage on. I can't remember what I'm meant to do here. And it's a bit like that with kind of bereavement, in terms of, I know when we have a child that dies, immediately there is, right, this is the policy, have a read of this, these are the resources. And you'd like to think that people would just know it. But we're human beings at the end of the day, and if we're not going to pick it up and read it every week just to refresh it. But if people have got that point of contact in terms of education, where they know someone they can call, you know, it might be the siblings. Obviously, it's going to impact potentially on their behaviour. It's going to impact on their emotions, their well-being, everything. Right, they might be able to just ring us. Can you come in and advise the staff? Because people make some terrible, terrible, terrible mistakes in the way they do it. Don't talk about it. Don't mention their name. No, that's the worst thing you can do. Or, as I've witnessed before, they don't mention about their sibling at all. They must be doing all right. It's like, no, that is a big red flag. That's a big red flag. They're burying it, and if they're burying it, that's going to come back and absolutely bite them in the backside in a few years' time, and can really cause problems, you know, for them mental health wise. So there's so much education, but we're not at that point yet. We do work with schools, but we do want someone who is going to be able to go out there and kind of use that role and start to educate people with regards to it.
It's good.
It's amazing. I think that's the first time we've paused in an hour and 36 minutes.
It is. I can't talk, can't I?
Leicester are 4-0 down.
Are they really?
Yeah, I've just seen it pop up on my phone. Not really. No. We're currently recording this while Leicester City are playing. Did you want to say something there?
Yeah, I was going to. I just think, I know we're sort of coming to the end, but anyone listening, how can they support the foundation? Can you tell us?
I mean, there's various ways. I mean, the obvious thing I'm going to say is like events. I mean, because the financial side of things, we entirely self-funded. We don't get any kind of government grants or anything like that, so we do rely on a lot of our events and kind of bid writing and stuff like that. So come along supporting events. Again, at events, sometimes we need volunteers. Sometimes we need volunteers at the building. What I would say in general, if you want to get involved, contact the through the website. One of the team will get in touch with you, whether it's as a business, as an organisation.
Give us the website, Nick.
www.Bodie Hodges, that's BODIE, Hodges, HODGES, foundation.co.uk. We're on all the social media channels as well, if you just put Bodie Hodges in. And yeah, if anyone wants to get involved, wants to support in any way, and I genuinely mean that in any way, run challenges for us, come and do the Great North. We've got a few spots left for the Great North Run. I won't ask you again, Pipes.
Dan's done it before. He might do it again. He's not got knees like me, you see.
I've done it once before. I was about 21 though. So.
I can see it.
Talking 19 years ago.
I can see the panic already. But yeah, there's so many different ways people are getting involved, and everyone's got skills. Sometimes we have people come and they do some gardening. Do you know what I mean? And like they'll plant flowers for us. Do anything that people have got. It just helps us. It helps us build our community, and ultimately, it's making a big difference for people who are in such a bad place. And just knowing now that we've got that there for people, there is that support, and they can get it early, instead of having to go on a waiting list for 9-10 months. Is a big step forward, and if people want to be part of that in helping us grow, then we welcome anyone to come and join us.
Nick, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are, well, I mean, I've told you this many times before over a beer, but at many of your events you're a top man, and we've said this a few times. We've had so many sort of good, brilliant, powerful episodes. We had to say to Jersey Bud, he's going to have to come back because there was more to say.
We could just keep going.
We could just keep going, but we can. I think what we're going to do is, not that we've covered it, but I did really want this episode to be a celebration of Bodie. I really did, and us talk about him in a fun way, and you, as his dad, talk about him in a real fun way, and the power and the legacy that he's created. I wanted to do that. You've talked on the grief, the website, and you don't realise it, I don't think yet, but this episode will help so many people. I mean, it's opened my eyes to a lot of the things that I was listening to, but just something that was said in this episode makes me, there's so much more that you need to say. I had so many questions pop up when you talked about your teaching, and we sort of with the FSD Foundation, that FSD Academy that me and James work at, we've had a lot of crossover of students over the years as well, working with similar students. It'd be great to get you back on to talk about your teaching background and your ideas around that, because a question did pop up, and we'll save this as a teaser for that episode, hopefully in series 2, where the confinement of school. So you got me at school, I go to school, they're pushing maths on me, they're pushing English, they're pushing science, you need to learn your algebra. I didn't want to do none of it. And just widening them boundaries a little bit that we try and do at FSD, and clearly you do at the place that you work at. And please remind us again of the initiative of resilience.
Yeah, roots to resilience. Yeah.
That was so powerful for me, because when it's all confined for youngsters that are in a school, and these are the boundaries, you can't come out of it, this is what you need to learn. We all learn in different ways.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all really good at different things, creating in different ways. Our minds all work in different ways.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and when it's all tunnel vision of this is what you need to learn, so it'd be brilliant, mate.
Yeah.
To get you back on and talk more about that and more about you as a person. And you created the wonderful foundation that helps so many people. But we want to talk about you as well, and we want to learn about you and what you do in your teaching.
God, you'll have low figures for that.
They'll all tune in, mate, because you're a top man. Yeah. Listen, thank you so much for coming in, mate.
No, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Cheers, Nick.
Loved it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Cheers, man.
He's the quiet one that asks all the sensible questions in the corner.
Very sensible questions. Oh, I've loved it. It's been brilliant. Thank you.
Top man. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.